If you want to understand the politics of the rubber dinghy channel migrant invasion, then you only have to look at this. Or this. Part Punch and Judy show, the other part 3 Card Monte scam, but a scam nonetheless. The good news is that if you want to fund me to do it, I can put a stop to it, and if I say I will do something, I do it. The bad news is that I don't think anyone is going to fund me, not even 1% of the amount that would be necessary. I think people are far too interested in scratching the itch and talking about it than in actually solving the problem. The indifferent news is that maybe it doesn't make that much difference anyway, because it is a distraction. This strand of illegal immigration is a highly visible distraction, very useful to the authorities, a distraction from the main issue, the main numbers, which are in legal immigration, about 20 to 25 times higher. But I will do my bit. I will offer to do my bit. If other people are prepared to do theirs, well, we will see. But then it can be put a stop to. Now, most people may have an image of this being a bunch of migrants in rubber dinghies landing on the beach, then running up the beach and invading us. But in fact, most of them being brought in by the RNLI or the Border Force organisations that have been turned on their head. That's a clip there from a fellow called Steve Laws. He's doing excellent work here. I'll quote him a bit later. The numbers are quite startling. If I show you this. This is a BBC report from the 1st of November, about 10 days ago, how many migrants crossed the English Channel in small boats. And that's the graph that they present. That's Home Office numbers. My guess is they're understated, and but they won't count the ones that come in undetected and do run up the beach. And there are probably some of those. But if you look there, it's about by the middle or towards the end of October, it was 40,000 had come in. The projection is 50,000 for this year. And the interesting thing is, if you look at all the other numbers, those other curves for 2018, 2019, 2020 and 21, if you join them together end to end, what you get is a really nice, rapid, exponential curve going vertical, aiming at the ceiling. The authorities are not going to get a grip on those numbers. And they don't want to. They're concerned to run this scam or to run mass immigration full blast. As I've said before, the motivation of the authorities is to gain more power by taking power away from the likes of you and me, the people who are ruled, the people who are governed, by grinding us down, impoverishing us, making us more dependent, taking away our identity. That is the purpose of mass immigration and multiculturalism. So I don't think that they want to get on top of those numbers. They want those numbers to continue. The way to stop it is the way you deal with any criminal gang, and that is to basically put a brick wall right in front of their faces and to say there is no way forward here, effectively to prevent government from being able to house and process those migrants, so they are forced to turn around, to look at themselves and to put a stop to the numbers coming in, simply because it's too embarrassing to them not to be able to put them anywhere. Now, that comes down to a planning issue, and I think there is a weak link, there is a chokehold here which can be exploited and should be, because it's the law should be applied, and that is the way that the Home Office are turning hotels into hostels. Now, what I want to do, I'm going to get a bit nerdy, a little bit technical here to show you the way that I propose to stop it, the way that I would do it, so that you can see that I'm serious, and to try and persuade you that it can be done. Now, if I go on to this next tab there, that is what's called the town and country the use classes order of 1987. And I should explain that a use class, that's a technical term for a category of things that you can do with a building. There are basically two things you need planning permission for. One is for building something, and the second thing is what you use that building for. And what you use the building for, that is divided into categories, and within the same category you don't need planning permission, but if you're changing from one category to another, then you do. So if you want to turn your house into a hotel, you need planning permission. If you want to turn a hotel into a hostel, you need planning permission. That wasn't the case in 1987. So the reason I'm showing you the history of it is to show there was a deliberate change to take hostels out of the hotel use class. So if I go into the latest version, there, that's the modern, the latest up-to-date amended version. C1 is not hotels and hostels now. C1 is just hotels. Use as a hotel or a boarding or guest house where in each case no significant element of care is provided. Now if you go back up to an earlier provision within the same use classes order, I mean a provision that comes earlier in the document, what it states is that no use class is specified in Schedule 1 or 2 if it includes, and then at I it says use as a hostel. So what has happened is the Parliament has decided that a hostel is not in the same use class as a hotel. That means that Parliament has said if you want to change a hotel to a hostel, you need to apply for planning permission. And I think those hotels which are getting block booked and rented out by the Home Office and used as a place to live for migrants who would otherwise be homeless, I think they are hostels, or possibly even in use class C2A, a secure residential institution. But I think they are hostels and they require planning permission. Now, just to prove, to show what I'm saying here, I want to show you something else from that fella Steve Laws. Steve Laws, if I just show you his face there, because there he is, he does sterling work covering the rubber dinghy migrant invasion. I'm going to quote him a couple of times. I recommend you look at his the stevelawsreport.co.uk, his website. It's good stuff, good data. He really works hard at it and does it well. So what he's talking about here is at least 4,000 illegal migrants are currently housed at the airport hotels around Heathrow after arriving in England via dinghy or the back of a lorry. In these hotels, the overwhelming majority are from Middle Eastern and African nations. Now you tell me if this looks like a hotel or a hostel to you. Let me just play this. That is not use as a hotel. That's a load of single, homeless young men being provided somewhere to live by the Home Office who are paying for everything for them. That is a hostel. That requires planning permission. Now the reason I think that's important is because block booking entire hotels, some of them really quite fancy and swanky, that is the only way that the Home Office have to house these illegal migrants, the rubber dinghy invaders and other illegal invaders. The only way is to put them up in hotels. If they're not able to do that, they have no other option. Now, I want to go through the other options. They could, for instance, revive the Linton-on-Ouse plan. I don't know if you recall, that was an ex-RAF site near the village of Linton-on-Ouse, which I think had about 600 or 750 people living in it, and there was an RAF base there that they proposed to turn into living accommodation for these young fighting age males, these illegal immigrants. And they would only have housed, and they eventually, because of the protest, to my surprise, the protests worked. Well, so far those protests have worked, and the Home Office backed off its plan to use the RAF site, the former RAF site at Linton-on-Ouse, as a migrant centre. But even that would only have housed 1,400 to 1,500 people, and that's about a couple of days' worth of rubber dinghy migrants. So that wouldn't be enough. So if the Home Office can't house these people in hotels, where do they put them? If they want to go back to the Linton-on-Ouse plan, they're probably going to have to get quite explicit that they're going to war against local people. The Home Office is going to have to get explicit that it really wants to go to war against us, against its own people. And I don't think it'll be able to do it. It won't work for very long anyway. An alternative approach is they could just build huge, great sites. How are they going to get planning permission for that in time? If they want to build a site that will house, say, 30,000 migrants at a time, that is going to require a big public inquiry. That'll take years to get planning permission for that. They might be able to use some emergency provision, but again, to do that, they have to become explicit about their war against, about the authorities' war, their hostility to the interests of the people they are paid to govern rather than exploit, and they don't want to do that. Another method would be to pay people to put them up in their houses. I don't think that's going to work. That was tried during the Ukraine crisis, and everyone thought that would be a great success, to pay people good money to house individual Ukrainian refugees, who are refugees from a really nasty war, and that would be a great success. And incidentally, a lot of very politically correct, a lot of multiculturalists, they jumped at the chance at last to walk their talk, because they could house a nice white European person in their home that they could get on with, and they thought wouldn't cause any trouble, because they were sick of being taunted about being hypocrites, which of course they are, and so now is their opportunity to show that they weren't hypocrites by housing Ukrainian migrants. So how did that work out? Well, it wasn't such a roaring success after all. Let's see what the Guardian say. Ukrainian refugees in UK face homelessness crisis as councils struggle to find hosts. Yeah, the typical mealy-mouthed Guardian reporting. Many Ukrainians are ending 6-month stays and finding there is nowhere for them to go, local authorities say. Now, the Financial Times, the FT, they were a bit tougher about it, a bit less mealy-mouthed. UK welcome for Ukrainian refugees turns sour as hosts start to run out of patience. And this from a publication called The Conversation that I don't think I've seen before, maybe once or twice. The UK's Homes for Ukraine scheme is failing both refugees and the hosts. Here's why. And what they said was that a recent survey by the Office for National Statistics found that only 23% of hosts are willing to continue hosting beyond 12 months, while 42% of hosts would not consider doing it again. I think we can say that means it was a failure. If that was a failure for nice white European migrants from Ukraine, probably many of whom are genuine refugees and really do need to get out of Dodge, then how much more of a failure is it going to be if you're having to house a violent Albanian pimp with a Coke dealership on the side? I don't know how you would house a violent Albanian pimp with a Coke dealership on the side. It would take a lot of work. My point is, if you stop the Home Office from being able to just basically buy up hotels and use them as invader hostels, then you prevent the Home Office from being able to house them at all. You force them then to stop those rubber dinghy invaders coming. Now the question is whether people want me to do this, want me to put a stop to this invasion. I think I can do it, and when I say I will do something, I do it. If you don't believe that, you ask the Muslim mosque outfit who wanted to set up a mega mosque in Golders Green. You ask the council who wanted to allow that mega mosque to go ahead in Golders Green. But the issue, as usual, is funding. I would have thought it would cost at least 10 grand to be able to launch an effective campaign in order to stop one of those hotels getting stuffed with invaders in your town. Because I think that it requires a two-pronged approach. First is to enable local people to express their opposition to it. Second is a legal campaign against the local authority, forcing them to enforce against the unlawful conversion of a hotel to a hostel for migrants, and possibly also a legal campaign against the Home Office for being the users, the people who pay to stuff that hotel with illegal migrants. But if you can do that, if you can do it effectively and properly, I think we can win. The question is whether people want me to do that. If people aren't willing to fund the expenses of it, the lesson, the inevitable conclusion is that people don't want me to do it. Fine, I will do my bit. I will offer to do my bit. People can't say they haven't been told. People can't say nobody offered. But I don't think anyone's going to take me up on that, simply because it's against the general tide of opinion. It's not in fashion. It's not what people want to spend money on. To the extent that people want to complain about it, that is all people want to do, simply to complain about it. You ask any clinical psychologist or some therapeutic counsellor, what they will tell you is that most people who complain about a problem actually, or who come forward with a problem, don't want a solution to that problem, because if the problem gets solved, they can't then talk about it and complain about it. And I think that is the issue here with the rubber dinghy invasion, and I think the politicians know it. That's why the politicians want it. That's why they like it, why they're pushing it, because it takes attention away from the massively larger volume of legal immigration. The reason why I'm so doubtful that people will come forward to fund this in any way, I mean not even 1% of it, is because people don't fund the work that I do already, fighting mosques. I have the credentials to be able to fight cases like this, like the rubber dinghy invasion. I have fought 84 mosque campaigns. I've got another 7 on the go, so in the new year I think that number should be bumped up to around the 91 figure, and I've won about 2/3 of those. So, and that's a pretty good success rate when you're trying to take on all comers. Apart from a very few quite heroic, dedicated and steadfast funders who give me about 5 to 10% of the funding I would need to be able to do this properly, people are just not interested in doing it. People want to talk about it, and the evidence again is that the people who are getting funding on this side, on our side, tend to be the people who are getting up outrage on your behalf, not doing anything at all, but the grifters who go on social media, rant and rave and say, aren't you right to feel upset about this? Let's shout about it a bit. That is what gets money out of people. And that again is a sign that people want to talk about it and complain about it, but not do anything about it. And that in turn leads me to the conclusion, this is not going to get solved by concerted action early. This will get solved when society breaks down. When the economy breaks down, that will then cause the welfare state to break down. The welfare heroin drip feed will get ripped out of our arms. We will then wake up in a very bad and alert mood. And then there will be no loyalty to the state. The state will break down. And after that, people will seek law on an opt-in, opt-out basis. Again, I say it again, like joining a club. And when that happens, no one is going to want to club together to provide law and order for themselves in a system that allows illegal invaders in it, or really pretty much any foreigners of any description at all within it. People will want to trust people who look, speak and act and think like they do. So it is only when society breaks down that I think that this will be dealt with. That will be the remedy. I will still offer to do my bit though. Now, if I really wanted funding, then I would jump the fence and work for the other side, work for the enemy, because that's where the money is. So if I show you this Guardian article, donations to RNLI rise 3,000% after Farage's migrant criticism. UK lifeboat charity raises £200,000 in a single day after the CEO hits out at Nigel Farage's taxi service claim. So you have the RNLI ferrying an awful lot of migrants into British waters, I don't think that's making the channel any safer. I think it's making the seas less safe, because it's encouraging people to go into the channel in unsafe craft by appearing to offer to rescue people. The Royal National Lifeboat Institution has raised more than £200,000 in a single day after defending its work rescuing migrants at risk of drowning in the channel, while volunteering inquiries have almost quadrupled. So there is a big market for people who will do something on the other side. And the RNLI are doing sterling work here. I want to play you this short clip from the Steve Laws video that I played earlier. I'll do it with sound this time.
Around 40,000 illegal immigrants have arrived by boat this year, according to MOD statistics. We have no clear figure on those arriving via vehicles such as the back of a lorry. The Home Office and the MOD confirmed they hold no data on those arriving illegally via the Eurotunnel. Calculations suggest that by the end of the year it will be around 50,000 illegal immigrants by boat, although the true figure for those arriving illegally will be closer to 100,000.
Doesn't that make you feel proud of our maritime history? So there you are, there's the RNLI there, and the Border Force. They seem to me the Border Negation Force, or the Invasion Facilitation Force. What they're doing, just bringing in so many migrants. And if you look at this page from that Steve Laws report, this is on the fuel costs to the Border Force for rescuing these rubber dinghy channel migrants. He really does really sterling work, Steve Laws. I can't praise him enough for what he's doing here. Query the relevance of it in the wider picture, but the work is excellent. The fuel used by Border Force marine vessels, including the contracted crew transferred vessels, CTVs, in respect of operations in the Channel in response to small boats, illegal migrants between the 1st of January 2022 and the 1st of August 2022 is as follows. Net £568,224.42 plus VAT, so the gross is nearly £600,000. This figure doesn't include the cost of fuel for the RNLI, the Royal Navy or other port vessels. This is strictly for the Border Force vessels involved in picking up illegal migrants from small boats, dinghies. So that is the Border Force spending nearly 600 grand just on fuel to pick these people up. That is sterling work. They are not the Border Force, they are the invasion force. I feel invaded by the Border Force. I would feel a lot safer if the Border Force didn't exist, or didn't refuse to operate in the English Channel. I'm sure we'd have far fewer invaders. The threat of invasion would diminish drastically. This again feeds into my view, my sense that the degradation, the sense of invasion, the loss of identity, the sense of being ground down and impoverished, those things that accompany mass immigration and multiculturalism, those things are what the authorities want. Those are not unfortunate byproducts of compassionate government policies. Those things are the government policy. That is the payload of government policy. It is what they want. And if you look at it from that point of view, then this whole rubber dinghy invasion crisis does in fact look very much like a Punch and Judy show or Three Card Monte scam, designed to distract us, to take our attention away to the real scam, which is legal invasion, which is much, much higher. And so, and you can see this in the quality of reporting and comments from the politicians. They name everything but the problem itself. It's like trying to find the invisible man. You can only find the invisible man by looking at what else there is around the invisible man. And the same, everything is talked about, but the real problem, which is the fact that these migrants, these invaders, are coming here. Let me look at a couple of the stories. If I show you, I could have found hundreds, but I've gone through just a few of them just to show the kind of chatter that is there to create steam, to distract us, to hide, to cloud the real issue, which is the sheer numbers coming in through all channels, including legal channels, including especially legal channels. Albanian migrants, why are they coming to the UK? That's from the BBC. Oh, I wonder why. Suella Braverman was warned over Manston Migrant Centre overcrowding. Well, I am outraged about that. And then this one here, Minister warns on language after Suella Braverman invasion comment. And the Refugee Council and third parties are brought in to create a bit more steam. The Refugee Council said to describe the serious and complex situation created by the asylum crisis as an invasion is appalling, wrong and dangerous. These are men, women and children fleeing war, persecution and conflict. Yeah, Albanians coming from France, fleeing war, persecution and conflict. Manston Migrant Centre, what are the problems? Yes, that's at the front of everyone's mind. I can't sleep at night for thinking about that. I'm sure you can't either. Suffolk MP says abandoned people smuggling boats pose risks. So it's not, the risks are not the people in the boats. So if you see that boat there, it's not the people in the boat, it is the rubber dinghy. That's the problem. Boats which are used for smuggling people into the UK and abandoned in the sea posed enormous risks to shipping, an MP said. Who was that MP, by the way? Peter Aldous, Conservative MP for Waveney, Suffolk. Yeah, well, what a brave man. Well done, well done. You got a few column inches on the Beebs website. Okay, what's behind the Home Office migrant backlog? So it's not the migrants, it's the Home Office backlog. And this is all the BBC, by the way, because it's good to know how your enemy think. And migrant begs for help in message in a bottle. And this is a young girl apparently, and she's saying, "Help! Help! It's terrible here." You can read the. I won't go through the detail. You can read it for yourself. It's just more distraction. And then Dover attack on migrant centre driven by hate, say Terror Police. So that's basically to warn the likes of you and me off talking about the people in the boats. We can talk about anything but that. I think that attack, responsibility for that attack by, I think, a genuinely mentally ill man dying of cancer who decided to go out in a blaze of glory before appearing to have committed suicide. I would lay that at the door of the Home Office. He wanted to make a show against them because of the treacherous way they're behaving. I certainly don't justify his nasty attack. You can't excuse it. It's completely pointless and nasty. But that is not at the door of people like me who are actually talking about the real problem. And then the next one, this is, and then you get third parties coming in. Here there's, this one is the School of Oriental and African Studies, just to show you this page on Twitter. They're going down to Manston. Most people are concerned about Manston being about all of the illegal migrants coming in. The School of Oriental and African Studies, they have another nickname. I won't go through it here. They say that Manson is a constant concentration camp. Hold on, let me just do this. So you see that closed down Manston camp, and they go down there to say this is a humanitarian catastrophe, and Manston is a concentration camp. Well, it doesn't look like much of a concentration camp to me. The children's cries of freedom and we need your help are a haunting indictment of the barbaric British border regime. Well, I certainly find the British border regime are barbaric as regards me. And then a bit more hot air comes from the Prime Minister. Rishi Sunak has renewed confidence UK can grip issue of illegal migration. I want to be honest with people, it's a complex issue. Right, so he has no reason to feel confidence. He's just flapping his gums, as he does, working out whatever people want to hear, and then saying it's regardless of substance. Said the Prime Minister about illegal immigration. He was speaking at COP27, when he was out in Sharm el-Sheikh or having a nice time in Egypt. Climate summit following a meeting with the French President Emmanuel Macron. Yeah, how is he going to turn that exponential curve that's just going up towards the ceiling? Numbers just increasing hand over fist. You notice he doesn't say, he just says he has renewed confidence, but he's done nothing. And a bit more steam here. What we have is the CCT commander. That's the clandestine channel threat commander. What a macho title. There's a nice macho man. Look at him. This is more steam. I'm surprised they didn't call him a czar. But with his picture there with his nice big tough battleship border force boat that's just ready to go to war against any illegal migrants. And we scroll down his page. People smuggling costs lives. We have to tackle it at every turn. No, they shouldn't be allowed to come here. Then, that same fella, Dan Omani, he's tweeting, he's retweeting this lady. She is the Home Office Director General of Asylum and Protection. Emma Haddad has written a powerful column in today's Telegraph. Every time a plane touches down, we're reinvigorated, knowing we've literally given the chance of a new life. So every time. So he obviously likes that. And this is the man. This is the clandestine channel threat commander. He's not going to... Well, I mean, that speaks for itself. This is more steam, more hot air, more distraction. More of the same old Punch and Judy show. Children in 1948 obviously weren't so concerned about gender stereotyping as we are today. But although it is a crude and, to my mind, blindingly obvious distraction, misdirection, a Punch and Judy show, it is effective, it is successful. People are really talking all the time about this actually very small branch of immigration, foreign, effectively invasion into the UK. And people are just not talking about legal immigration at all. In fact, it is successful because it is making people more positive about legal immigration. If you don't believe me, then look at this. This from let me do this. This from the man, the gift that always keeps on giving, Lawrence Fox. Yes. And his ridiculous Reclaim Party. I want to play you this because this is actually quite funny. Nothing to say, except just complaining about an issue, helping people to scratch an itch. Some people enjoy that so much they don't want to get rid of the itch. And then those are the kind of people who turn to a character, the politics of Lawrence Fox.
We're about to watch the Democrats, I hope, be hung, drawn and quartered in the midterms as a result of trying to sell this woke politics to your average person. So if a gay Indian dude, and not that I'm trying to be identitarian about it, but he was a gay Indian dude, turns around and says, I'm completely on side with what you say, then a lot of the public are here going, this doesn't make sense. We don't need to be dragging these guys off boats, not dragging them, helping them down off boats. It's about, you want to come into England, come in legally.
If you want to come into England, come in legally. So it is working. This the Punch and Judy show about the rubber dinghy invasion. It is acclimatizing people to ever larger volumes of legal immigration. And someone like him, like Lawrence Fox, who poses as being anti-establishment and a patriot, he is towing that line. Now, I want to explain what I mean by by saying that it's the rubber dinghy invasion is a distraction, a la Lawrence Fox. I want to explain it by showing you the numbers. Now, going back to this BBC page here, that again, that's the estimate is there'll be 50,000 rubber dinghy migrants that we know about coming in over the whole of 2022, And interestingly, of the 6,910 small boat arrivals who have received an initial decision since 2018, 49 were granted asylum or another type of leave. The rest were refused. The ones who refused, they'll stay, that they won't go back. I'll come to that in a minute. But that's the number you're looking at, 40 to 50,000 over this year. And now, legal migration is far, far bigger. There are basically three main limbs or reasons for granting a visa to the UK. This is far from the only reason, but if I go through them, that they are firstly to work here, to join family members, and to study. And I want to look at, there's this document, these are the Home Office figures that go up to June of 2022. They were published 23rd of September 2022, so they're fairly up to date. And what they find is that people who came to the UK to work, there were 331,233 work-related visas granted in the year ending June 2022. This was a 72% increase compared with 2019, so before the pandemic, so a 72% increase. And then to study, in the year ending June 2022, there were 486,868 sponsored study visas granted, etc. That was 71% more than before the pandemic. And then family, so to join family members, there were 303,553 visas and permits granted for all family reasons in the year ending June 2022, 61% more than 2019. So if you add those numbers together, so 303,000, 486, 487,000, and then 331,000, that comes to about 1.12 million. And if this year the rubber dinghy invaders get up to 50,000 with the help of the Border Force and the RLNI, if they can really work hard, if those guys can get together, work hard, and get over the 50,000 line by the end of the year, that will still be only 4.5% of the number of those visas granted for people legally to come here, either to work or to study or for family reasons. And there are other reasons people come here. There are other forms of illegal immigration as well, other forms of visas that get granted. And the basic lesson is, once you get here, you stay. If you get here, you're able to live here. I want to go, if I show you this, this Home Office document, how many people are detained or returned. Now if I go back down to here, now that shows 3 lines. People who are kicked out of the country, that's called returns. And you have 3 types of return. Voluntary return is when someone is told, hey, your time's up, you've got to leave, and people say, okay, I'll go. Enforced returns, that's when some kind of enforcement proceeding is taken. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're chucked in a detention camp, or that you're marched onto an aeroplane. It means that enforcement action is taken. You're given some notice, at least some formal notice, to say, hey, you've got to get out now. And then port returns, that's where you rock up at the airport, it doesn't match, you'll put back on the plane. And the numbers there for enforced returns in the year ending March 2022, that looks to me to be about 3,000. It went up from about 2,500 a year ago. And voluntary returns, that's that light grey line there. I'd say that's about 8,000 per year. So you're looking at about a bit over 10,000, 10 to 12,000, I would say, probably under 12,000. And then you've got all those port returns. Well, so 10 to 12,000, that's, I think, about 1% of the total visas granted just for those 3 reasons. So the bottom line being, if you get into the UK, you don't have to, you may go back, but that's a matter of your own choice. You're not going to get forced to go back. You can stay if you want to. You won't get kicked out. This is a migration system that is running at full blast. That is the purpose, that is the aim, to grind us down, to take away our sense of identity, our sense of home. And if you don't believe me that it's running at full blast, then look at this story. what you have is, this is again the BBC, channel migrants, smugglers claim boat shortages affecting crossings. People smuggling gangs in France claim there is a growing shortage of small boats to make the crossings, a BBC investigation has discovered. So it's, the bottleneck is not being created by the border force, who are assisting the invaders coming here. It is the shortage of boats on which to fling themselves into the water. You have a situation, although the government tries to blame the people smugglers, what you have is the people smugglers saying to the border force, slow down, we can't keep up with you, we can't supply you with, we haven't got enough boats to supply you with enough illegal immigrants. If you think that the politicians are merely incompetent, you're seriously mistaken. What I want to do here is to look at the Conservative Party manifestos going back to 2005. Now, immigration, they know that people are worried about this. They know people don't like it. They feel that they can distract people enough that people won't kick up a big enough fuss about it. So this is the 2005 Tory manifesto. Let me go up with, there's Dracula there, giving a nice smiley face. And if I go down a bit, where am I? Bear with me. There. It's not racist to impose limits on immigration. Secure borders and controlled immigration. Then it goes on to say how wonderful immigration is, but they are going to impose, they are saying they're going to impose limits on immigration. That was in 2005. The next manifesto was in 2010. This one here. Let me see if I can enlarge that a little bit. In attracting the best, the brightest and best to our country, they say, we will take steps to take net migration back to the levels. I hate the way they go on about net immigration and not immigration, the raw immigration numbers. I think that, again, that enhances my view, my conclusion, that what it's about is diluting us, getting rid of the sense of us as a people, and taking away a sense of our own home, and that is, and talking about net immigration is a way to hide that, not to let us see it, to prevent us knowing that they're doing it. So we will take steps to take net migration back to the levels of the 1990s, tens of thousands of a year, not hundreds of thousands. So they're kind of implying that they'll reduce it by a factor of 10. And then in the next manifesto, I think this was 2015, they said that controlled immigration that benefits Britain, yes. Keep our ambition of delivering annual net migration in the tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands. Again, they're repeating that pledge. And then the 2017 Tory manifesto, controlled sustainable migration with net migration down to the tens of thousands. That promise, that was Theresa May's government will deliver, and those are the bullet points. And the one is to reduce net migration to the tens of thousands. The promise is getting a bit thin by that stage. So by 2019, Boris Johnson is a bit more cunning and crafty. He just says we're going to fix our immigration system. And what he says there is, a vote to leave the EU was, among other things, a vote to take back control of our borders. So that's what he's going to do, take back control of the borders. And he has, well, he and his class have developed an iron grip on the borders and torn them apart, judging by the numbers coming over and how people are allowed to stay. When Powell made his 1968 speech about, his famous speech about immigration, he was talking about 50,000 people per year being allowed in, and how we must be literally mad to do that. The numbers are now simply on the three types of visa, family, work and study visa that get issued. Those numbers alone are more than 20 times the number that they were when Enoch Powell said we must be mad to let in such high numbers. This, the rubber dinghy invaders, they are that is the same number as the number that Enoch Powell said we were mad to allow in the country legally. Don't be fooled. The rubber dinghy migrants, that whole issue is simply a way to distract you from focusing on the overall numbers coming in, and to get people to say, okay, legal immigration then is okay. You just please stamp down on the illegal immigration. I think, but nevertheless, I think it should be stopped. I think distractions like that should be stamped on and got out of the way, and that is 50,000. It'll be twice that number next year. That is 50,000 who should not be allowed to come here in the first place. If you want, and by want I mean if you will fund it, I think I can stop it by simply preventing the Home Office from being able to house those people anyway or anywhere. Then they will have to do something about the numbers coming in. They simply won't be able to run the legal and illegal immigrant or the illegal immigration system at full blast. But I keep saying, I think that's probably the wrong answer. So I keep saying, I don't think this will get solved by any of us taking concerted action. I think it will get solved by the system breaking down. When that happens, the welfare heroin will be taken away from us, and then we will have to confront the problems ourselves. We will do it in an intelligent and unsentimental manner. We will have to join together with people we trust in order to provide law for ourselves, because the state will have broken down, the state won't be able to do it, and there will be no incentive to club together with illegal immigrants, even legal immigrants. People will be very cautious and careful about who they trust with their own security. There is no reason to pay more money in order to belong to a system that is more crime-ridden. No one will do it. And the populations will, I think, naturally, inevitably settle out very fast and very hard along ethnic lines. And then the foreign enclaves will quickly fall into unsurvivable conditions, and returning to the countries of origin will suddenly look a lot more attractive to them then. That is how I think this will get solved. It will get solved by breakdown, not by action. But I'll say it again, if you want me to, I will do my bit, and I think I can stop that wave of illegal channel immigration by taking planning action here. Thank you.